All right, it's a big week for Nike, a big week for Air Max, so I thought we'd bring on a special guest to the show today, our great colleague Drea, who manages media growth and distribution for podcasts, YouTube, and creators here at HubSpot Media, who I also believe is wearing a pair of Air Max right now, and who is, well, I don't know, what would you call yourself, a sneakerhead?
Oh man, Jake, I'm so I'm so glad to be here. Sneakerhead, I don't know if I've earned that term yet. I would call myself a sneaker enthusiast. I think that's probably a little safer. And just for all of you out there listening, I'm currently taking offers to join seed lists. I'm talking to you, New Balance, Nike, Puma, Reebok, Saucony, Asics, Adidas, and Skechers. Honestly, if you got some heat, send them my way, 6.5 men's.
Okay, so Drea, Sunday is Air Max Day. I've been seeing the words Air Max a lot this week, but just for some context, some other places I've been seeing this, Nike earnings dropped on Monday. Third quarter revenues, $12.4 billion, up 14% year over year. Whoop. Exactly. You're going to love this. CEO John Donahoe said something very poetic in his remarks. I thought it was a slam poetry event, not an earnings call. He said, "You may have heard us say before that running is the heart of Nike, basketball is the soul." And then he separately mentioned a product franchise that's a multi-billion-dollar business in its own right, Air Max. And my first thought was he totally missed the opportunity to refer to Air Max as the lungs of Nike, right?
100%. Air Max is definitely the multi-billion-dollar business within Nike, but I also kind of feel like Jordan brand has like a pretty significant stake in that full Nike brand body. So pretty interesting.
Yeah, and another thing I thought you'd love was also this week, the same day, I believe, Foot Locker CEO Mary Dillon came into work in gold Air Max 97s to announce a new partnership between Foot Locker and Nike. I was reading Foot Locker, around 68% of their merchandise came from Nike in 2021. They're trying to reduce that, but still maintain a good relationship with Nike.
Yeah. They're closing down like 400 of their mall shops. That actually makes total sense to me, though, because I think they're probably going to focus a little bit more on the boutique. Not to mention, back in 2019, they made an investment of about $100 million in GOAT, which is like a sneaker reseller site. So I think that they're planning ahead. I think they've got their head in the game and they know what direction they need to go in to maintain relevancy and continue to build that growth for sure.
So long story short, I'm seeing Air Max, I'm seeing Nike everywhere this week. Can you help me set the scene a little bit, just a little more on what Air Max Day is? What does Nike do to make this day special and lucrative too? How are they activating customers? What do fans do to celebrate? What do you do to celebrate, if you do?
All right, think of Air Max Day as like a global birthday party celebrating the birth of Tinker Hatfield's creation of the Air Max 1, right? So back on March 26 in 1987, Tinker Hatfield introduced the Air Max 1. As we know, the design of that sneaker was really to kind of emulate the Paris Pompidou Center and to kind of show that, this design was from the inside out. It was one of the first shoes that had the bubble on the outside, which is always super dope. And love to kind of see that type of inspiration. Air Max Day is a Nike holiday. It brings global fans together. We typically just talk all things sneakers, rock our favorite Air Max, and of course, talk that sneaker talk. Nike has always been a savage when it comes to breathing sneaker culture into life. So they're running pop-up events all over the world. I'm talking Shanghai, London, Brooklyn, you name it, they are out here. They've done everything from dropping oversized temporary sneaker box venues into cities. Like I'm talking like, imagine a sneaker box being dropped in the middle of Boston, so big that you could have 1,000 people in it shopping like the latest drop. Like they're so innovative when it comes to their experiential. It's so dope. They've also made short films about the Air Max. I think they just dropped one. And they even used to give people the opportunity to kind of put their own spin on the shoes by using Nike ID, which is awesome. Every year they do a few drops. I'm not going to lie, this year I'm in it for the 86 Big Bubble. It's going to be hard to get it though. It's like the way that they release sneakers is they will release some to some retailers, right? So like if you know which retailers are releasing, you can definitely wait in line for those. If not, you can definitely try to hit on the sneakers app. But if there's anybody out there listening like me, I've never hit on the sneakers app. Like no shade to Nike, but like I have tried every single time and I've never ever hit. So I might try again this year. I might try.
the history of Air Max it's really fascinating to me, and I want to just dive into it a bit deeper. And it's a long history. You mentioned the Air Max 1s. It even goes back further, about a decade, 1977. You have this NASA aerospace engineer, Frank Rudy, trying to build inflatable inserts for his wife's ski boots.
So innovative.
So innovative, and a nice husband. And he sees that he realizes maybe this could work for sneakers too. He brings them to Nike CEO Phil Knight, who sticks them in some sneakers, goes for a 6-mile run. Long story short, they end up with the deal. Signed, sealed, delivered, 10 to 20 cents a pair. Go to Rudy. Not bad. And then you had the Air Tailwind as 1979, really the first shoe that they used the gas-filled pouch in, successful with runners. But, the coolest part of the shoe, the airbag, can't even see it.
That's right. It was hidden.
Can't see it. To the naked eye, there's no difference between that and shoe from Adidas. So you have that. And then, like you said, Tinker Hatfield comes in, sees the Pompidou Center in France, uses it as inspiration. All of its inner workings, its pipe, electrical, air ducts, all exposed, very artsy, good for Instagram. And in 1987, Air Max 1 is released. You could see the air unit cut out in the heel. Rest is history. Bada bing, bada boom.
Totally. So crazy. I mean, can we just go back to that part where he paid Rudy 10 to 20 cents per pair? Like, how can we get back to that? That's the real question here.
I know. We got to think of our own kind of sneaker innovation that we got to bring to Phil Knight's desk.
Absolutely. I actually just bought Shoe Dog, latest book that I bought. I'm only like in the first chapter, kind of reading about how Phil Knight would like wake up really, really early and like go on these like really long runs in the dark. Super, super inspirational. That would not be me, but really cool to kind of hear the background of where Phil Knight's head was at back in the day.
A lot of these inspirational stories, wow, that's amazing. Would never be me, but that's amazing.
Definitely not.
I think another interesting aspect of this whole story is the business impact that Air Max has on Nike. They've said outright, like I mentioned in the earnings call, it's a multi-billion-dollar business growing double digits, they said. But they've never really gone into more detail than that.
Right.
I think one interesting place that I was able to gather some more interesting details about Air Max and their sales has been StockX, which is, for those who don't know, it's a major sneaker reselling platform. It hit 40 million lifetime trades in 2022. So it's really quite popular. And over the years, they've put out some interesting data on Air Max shoes on their platform. So between 2016 and 2020, the market share of Air Max, or the percentage of dollars spent on all sneakers on StockX that went to Air Max, rose by 800%. So strong growth on the platform. Crazy. And between 2019 and 2020, the average Air Max shoe on StockX across all styles appreciated by 28% in value. So not investment advice, but Air Max is beating inflation. So you want to know where to put your money, maybe it should be in Air Max sneakers.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jacob, when we talk about asset classes, a lot of times people don't think of sneakers as asset classes, but there's an entire world out there where, you do have these collectors and you do have people that are able to get these sneakers and hold them until they do become extremely lucrative. So obviously we're talking about Air Max day to day, but when you look at other sneakers, such as, some of the Jordan 1s, even like the Jordan Dior's, those are going for over $10,000. If you look at the original Red Lobster, I think the lowest ask on those right now are like $65,000 on StockX, something along those lines. But people have made full careers off of being able to buy and sell sneakers. So they're a true asset class. And I think StockX is definitely one of those places that's kind of democratizing, if you will, the way that we like kind of buy and sell sneakers. I mean, of course, they've got their fees built in, and you are going to pay a lot more than you would pay retail if you are using StockX, but it's just one of those things. Pretty interesting though.
Yeah, and it is interesting. I've seen some data. Obviously, I think maybe the second half of the teens and early pandemic, it really boomed as an asset class. I saw some recent data saying it maybe slowed down a bit, still is very large and growing overall. I was also looking, Google search data has shown that relative search interest in Air Max sneakers as a Google search is past its peak, which kind of peaked a few years back. And my question, I think, for you is, the CEO made a point also in earnings to say they're now focusing on making new Air Max styles for Gen Z. Has the Air Max bubble popped? Are they seeing some slowdown? Or is it sturdier than ever? And is the future really bright? What are you thinking about this?
I think the Air Max bubble isn't like any other bubble, right? Like it's different than other industries that are driven by macroeconomic factors, like say the housing bubble. The Air Max bubble is really driven by the culture, right? So the culture is always evolving, and there's also a sense of nostalgia. So, if you're a sneaker sniffer like me, you know exactly what I'm talking about. People are blocking their calendars at work right now to try to hit on the sneakers app release for Air Max Day. The interesting thing, when you're thinking about trying to make a shoe for a certain generation, it seems like a pretty tall order. I mean, right? Like, are you Gen Z? Like, would you call yourself
I'm Gen Z for sure. Yeah.
All right, cool. So it's like, how can someone generalize an entire generation and assume that Gen Z will conform to a specific style? Just because a brand is saying that it should, doesn't mean that the generation is actually going to. I'm the oldest of 5, so I'm a full millennial out here, but all my siblings are Gen Z, and they're the opposite of conformity. They're focused on individualism, and they're betting against the expectation that they'll do what brands and companies assume. They're the new version of rebellion. So I don't know. I mean, it's interesting that Nike's deciding to kind of make a silhouette for a generation, because unless they've consulted with the generation, which I'm sure they've done some research, it'd be interesting to kind of see what they think about that.
When I look at Air Max sneakers, and I actually think this is one of the great aspects of the franchise at large, I'm looking at the ones that you can just go to the store, go online, and easily buy, mostly for athletic wear, athletic purposes. The reason I think that's so great is because, and why Nike's been so successful here, is they've built the Air Max brand into so many styles and price points, serve such a wide population. Everyone from people like me who just want a good sneaker to run around in, to people who want it, as a statement, as a piece of art. And I think that's really cool.
For me, I'm definitely more of an Air Max Jordan 1, Jordan 4 lover. Maybe because like they remind me a lot of the sneakers I wore back when I was growing up, or the ones that I wanted when I was growing up. But I'm literally surrounded by sneakers right now. Like, it's definitely time for me to get a bigger house. I can't I've got to expand here. Like, I don't have enough space. But, as I mentioned, as long as Nike continues to consult their consumers on what they love and what they don't, I think they'll continue to report those record profits. Some of the supply chain issues are out of their control. Some of the purchasing habits are also out of their control. But if there's one thing I do know about sneakerheads, it's that they'll do whatever it takes to get that grail. And I think Nike knows that too.
All right. Well, to end off, I want to know, end of the day, what is so special about Air Max for you?
So to be honest, for me, I think it comes back to that original thinking that Tinker had when he designed the Air Max 1. Like, the fact that he was able to take that inspiration from the inside out aesthetic of the Pompidou Center to create a shoe to show its inner workings like that was really, really cool to me. Like, I feel like there aren't many sneakers that have inspiration like of that level, where you see something like that and you're like, okay, I want to produce that. I want to make that tangible. I want to show what the inside looks like on the outside. The thought process behind that is definitely one of my favorite things. Also, some really cool fun facts about the Far Outs. No two pair are alike. All of the denims used on the sneakers are entirely different. So that was a really big thing that was glossed over in all of the descriptions that you may have read. All of the materials used on the shoes were inspired by Jimi Hendrix's attire, and the symbols on the toe box were inspired by the symbols on the OG Woodstock tickets. He also told me that the original Dr. Aeronymous, who painted the Volkswagen light bus, inspired the packaging, loved it. So naturally, he has a pair too. He has got to be the flyest 90-year-old out there, I'm sure. If you look closely at the packaging above the Concept's license plate, you'll see the name Hieronymus replaced with Osronymus, and Oz is a fool for that one on the packaging. No one even knew that it was there until it was printed. Like, he's crazy. The packaging is as meticulous as a sneaker, though. The Far Out is all about that 60s Summer of Love energy. And even though I wasn't around at the time, I'd say most of the time my energy definitely matches that vibe. Dion Point went nuts on those. Even the laces are psychedelic. I keep the velvet bright pink ones in mine at all times. So that's how I'm rocking them.
There you go. You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. 6.5 men's.
6.5 men's.